Where'd she get those shoes? Tramps for less?
Susie had always wanted to belong.
I have other friends.
To be part of the crowd.
We just need to get wasted.
But once they let her in, stick to the plan.
I am scared.
We're getting away with it.
There was only one way out.
There's no one to trust. You can trust me.
Kevin Bacon, Matt Dillon, Neve Campbell.
I'd want to keep a real close eye on my new friends.
Wild Things.
Don't touch me.
Directed by John McNaughton. Rated R. Opens everywhere March 20th.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome back to the show.
Chunky guitars in that trailer. Listeners, this movie is from a time.
25 years
It
ago.
is from a time.
Big anniversary.
Absolutely. Well, everybody out there, my name's Pete.
And I'm Scott, and these are the movies that made us gay.
Yes, indeed.
Welcome back to the show. We are talking about a very sexy movie today.
Absolutely.
And we're joined today by Samir Roy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be in LA once again.
It's good to have you here. We are talking about Wild Things, directed by John McNaughton, written by Stephen Peters, released March 20th, 1998. 25 damn years ago. All of the 98 movies are having a big anniversary this year. There's a lot of really formulative movies of my young adulthood in 98.
Are there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a lot.
We talk about 99 a lot, but I mean 98.
98 was right when I was going into junior high, so I feel like that's just kind of a very... Everything in pop culture definitely makes an impression of you. And Wild Things definitely made an impression on 13-year-old me.
Wow, you were 13. So did you watch it when it came out?
12, 13. I waited to the home video. This movie was a little too sexy.
Right?
I wasn't even going to try to
'cause you're not going to
somehow
this with your
finagle my
parents.
way into a movie theater to see this movie.
So you didn't have the Pen 15 experience at home with the video? Where they had that? Did
they watch it on Pen 15?
Yes,
Oh,
I think
that's
it's season
right.
8, or episode 8 of season 1, and it's like when, I forget the character's name, but she's like, they really want to have their first kiss.
Yeah.
And their mom rents this for them to have a movie night with their friends. And they're like going to watch this sexy movie, and they're watching Wild Things, and it's,
Oh
of
my
course, an
God.
incredibly awkward experience altogether, as that show is.
That
Yeah.
tracks, because I'm roughly the same age as they're portrayed on the show, I think. Whenever they reference things, that's kind of how old I was.
Yeah, it was like one of those movies at the time where, like, that was the movie where you're like, oh, you were the cool kid because you saw, like, you wanted to see the movie that you were forbidden from seeing. And of course, in America, that's a movie with sex. And that movie was all about sex. So everyone was like, oh, I'm going to go see Wild Things.
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to, it was a secret, cool thing that the kids could do, just like, drinking on the weekends.
And then we got Cruel Intentions in 99. So it was
My
just sort of
goodness.
like the opening act to a racy teenage movie like that.
I was in college.
Yep.
I had just graduated high school.
Yeah. I was in college, and all of my friends were very fascinated by this movie. They were
Yes.
just like, this was it. It was Denise Richards. I mean, we were big fans of Starship Troopers, and so we knew who she was.
Hot off Starship
I
Troopers.
won't say that many of my straight guy friends were super stoked to see Neve Campbell in a sexy way. I don't think that many of them were very much like, oh yeah, Neve Campbell, she's hot. Take it off.
I think I was saying that, though.
I had seen her, of course,
No.
from Scream, and I was like, "Oh, this is another Neve Campbell movie."
Yeah.
And I worked at a video store when this came. It was when it was on the new release wall back when we had video stores.
Yeah, yeah.
And I worked at Hollywood Video.
I can see the
Love
poster
it.
now. I can see the poster now at Hollywood Video of Neve and Denise
Yes.
in the pool.
just like the opening title screen of the movie, like rising out of the water like a predator. But like I saw it on the new release wall, and that image, I was like, "Oh, Neve Campbell's in him." I don't know who Denise Richards is right now, but
Yeah.
I know Neve Campbell. This looks weird, and I read the plot, and I was like, it's like a film nerd already. And I was like, oh, I've got to watch this. And I laughed hysterically the entire time watching this movie. I wasn't even out of the closet, but some part of my gay brain understood the satire that was happening here.
Yes, absolutely.
You didn't quite know it was just serving B-movie camp, but you secretly knew it, though.
You secretly knew it. Yeah, you just kind of understood. Like when you get to that shot of Denise Richards' ass with the frilly lace panties going down over the Mary Jane shoes and the ankle socks. It's like you understand where you are, and nobody in here is taking this to be like, oh, we're going to make this salacious movie because we're just dirty men. I'm like, no, they're making fun of shit right here. I can tell.
Okay, so I have a memory of renting this movie from. Okay, do you remember gas stations.
Oh,
the
yes.
back movie wall. This is gas station back wall movie cinema, because I feel like this is the type of movie that I could get away with renting this by myself at that type of establishment.
Yes, I think perfectly describes the vibe of the whole movie. Back wall gas station cinema
Yep. I feel like that's something very specific.
in Florida.
In Florida.
Oh my God, the Florida of this movie.
Oh my God! Like you're not letting you forget that they're in
No,
Florida. It's like you
absolutely
start
not.
on the Everglades,
Yeah.
you get a gator coming out of the water.
I get like Southern Gothic, you know, the whole Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil kind of like vibe. This is not that, but it still has that. And Scott told me afterwards that this like Florida noir
is
genre.
a big subgenre of noir.
like
Yep.
body heat. It
Okay.
kind of gave me body heat vibes.
All right, yeah.
You know, like that, like where like the heat of the environment is reflected in the heat between these people.
Yes.
You know, kind of feeling.
And alligators.
And alligators.
I have in my notes of just examples of Florida noir. Wild Things, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective,
Oh, God.
Body Heat, Night Moves, Key Largo,
Night Moves too. Oh my God.
Palmetto, and Miami Blues.
Palmetto, yeah.
Right, that's true. It is a thing.
Yep, it is a big thing, and I mean, it's all. I think that Raymond Chandler, or who wrote Rum Punch, what they based Jackie Brown off of,
James.
Oh sure. Yeah, was it
Elmore
Elroy?
Leonard?
Elmore Leonard. I think that has some books set in Florida. Carl Hassand, I think.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know the name.
And I think that he writes a lot of true crime written out of Florida.
Well, there's a lot of material there.
Yes.
So okay, so I skipped this.
I was
When it
shocked.
first came out.
I was shocked when you told me that you had never seen this. That your straight buddies just did not drag you to go see this movie.
No, and they were all about it, and I remember that. And I think I was just like, okay, it looks fine. I just wasn't in such a big hurry. Like I said, I wasn't like, oh yeah, Neve Campbell, break me off a piece of that. I do think Denise Richards, very sexy, very fun in Starship Troopers. She was a girl you love to hate. But something about it, I just didn't really feel like, okay, this is a movie for me. Now, that said, here we are 25 years later. Spoiler alert. Crazy shit goes down. Twists and turns.
You were gagged on our couch.
This is where I'm going
yesterday
with that. Twists and turns at every moment. But I never really said, okay, I'm gonna like read the plots, and I'm just gonna watch it when we get ready when we prep for the podcast. Prepping for the podcast, watch it, and I'm like, oh, because they play it off like she goes into the house, she comes out, and she's all pissed off, and you're like, oh, well, what happened? They play it off very coy at the beginning. Then things start to unravel, and they start letting you know. But then more things start like coming undone. Well, then we start looking for trailers for the podcast. They give away the first gag in the trailer.
Well, I think that you kind of
Really?
have to.
They give away the gag that the whole initial rape
That's
plot
right.
is a scam between the two.
But they
girls.
have to use the sexy stuff in the marketing, though.
Right.
They do. And then I was also, when you just played it, because I'd actually never watched the trailer, because like I said, I didn't watch it in the theaters.
And this was only a short
I
TV
rented
spot.
it on video, so I never had actually
Yeah.
seen this trailer. And when you played it, I'm like, oh, they're depicting this movie like it's a story about Neve Campbell's character.
Right.
Which, spoiler alert, you don't realize how important that is until the end of the film.
Yeah.
It makes sense
Yeah.
leading with Neve Campbell because she would have been hot off of something like Scream 2. I want to say that this is the year that 54 came out. So they were trying to make her happen.
Yes, definitely. All they had to do was keep making Scream sequels.
But I was geeked, gooped, and gagged at the end of this movie at every turn. Every
Yeah.
time there was a new reveal,
There's
I was
like 3 reveals
You
in this
got me,
movie."
gal. I didn't know.
Like they're still
Before
doing
the credits.
They're still
Yeah.
doing reveals as the end credits are happening.
Which I loved.
yeah,
That-
which is very clever. Which I guess was always planned. That
Right.
was in the
but
script.
they did it as mid-credit sequences showing like, well, here's what really happened.
Like, this is, like, in case you
Yeah.
have questions, which we know you do, here are the answers, and we're just going to
Yeah.
break up the credits. Like, you don't need to know who the cinematographer was.
Yeah.
Let's see exactly when this plot began.
Yeah,
Because it's like, there's so many, like, you're like, wait a minute, when you're trying to wrap your brain around it, you're like, so when I'm watching this scene, this character's in on the plot, but he thinks he's only in on the plot with this person, but he doesn't know this person's in plot with this person, and that
then we're
person's
gonna
actually...
then we're gonna add then we're gonna add Kevin Bacon at the very last minute.
and Kevin's Bacon as well.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. That was another thing that I do remember that was the kind of hype around this movie and just like the legend of like the nudity and the sex scenes and how graphic they were, and the Kevin Bacon full frontal or side frontal or whatever.
Oh, you see it all.
I would even argue that I think that my brain, remembering this movie when I was like 13 or 14 watching it, remembers the threesome scenes being a little more graphic. They're very graphic.
It's
like
the
you see a lot of Denise, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And you don't even really see her boobs, though, do you?
Occasionally.
A little bit.
Fast shots.
I mean, she wears a lot of things that are white and see-through, but I feel like she's never fully undressed in the this edited version film. I think you guys watched the unrated.
We watched the unrated version.
And you do see her boobs in that, but
I
in the
think
other
the
version you
champagne
don't.
scene is extended.
That makes sense.
And I was also reading that
The champagne.
I think that there's a little more exposition of what's going on
Okay.
with the story.
My DVD didn't arrive in time, or my 4K disc didn't arrive in time. I was like, I've got to watch it. I've got to watch all the extra features.
Yeah.
I've got to watch it with the commentary. I need to hear the director of Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer talk about making Wild Things.
That's also the thing is that came out in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
It was like 89, I think.
89, and that was just sort of a big festival hit, and it made some money too.
It made some money, and it got a lot of press. It's like a sacred title in the horror
Right.
fandom.
Yeah.
I mean, and that movie is famous also for how it uses video footage. And incorporates it into the story because it's very disturbing in that movie.
I was going to say documentary, but I mean, I think that's what makes it interesting is that it feels like a documentary.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And so you get that, like in that movie, you get this like the famous scene where like you're seeing this really intensely graphic murder scene, like, and these people who are kind of enjoying what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And then the camera zooms out and you realize it's on a TV screen, and then you see the characters, they're like watching it on video. Yeah. They're watching their murder on video. You're like, oh my God. And of course you get lots of zoom outs from TV screens in this movie showing maybe not graphic murders, but other things you probably shouldn't be playing on TVs in like front of other people.
So we were talking a little bit about the cast earlier, but I think it's kind of important to note that all of these actors, Denise Richards, Neve Campbell, and Matt Dillon, at a very specific time of their career where they were really having a moment. I mean, Neve, we talked about, was coming hot off of something like Scream 2. Denise had just made Starship Troopers, and Matt Dillon had a huge 98 because this is the year in the summer that Something About Mary came out.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Not Kevin Dillon. Matt Dillon kind of leaning into being a douchebag in movies and just how successful he is as that type, especially in something like Something About Mary.
Right. I'd forgotten that was the same year. Because I was trying to remember, like, what else was Matt Dillon famous for that I should know? Because I know who he is, and I know that weird snarl expression that he does all the time.
Well, if you look at the photos on IMDb, there are lots of pictures from the premiere of Wild Things, and he's there with Cameron Diaz.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
They were an item at the time.
Yeah, so they got together after There's Something About Mary. Yeah, it's interesting. I think he had kind of a career slump because he was a child actor in the early 80s.
Yeah.
He had, he was really hot off of The Outsiders and Little Darlings.
We were just watching
which we just watched.
We were just watching a little bit of Little
1980,
Darlings the other night.
I'm talking very early 80s. This is 1980. Outsiders is what, 81, 82?
Yeah.
And then I think in the mid, as he aged, he kind of had a little bit of a slump in his career, started doing some kind of like maybe some less, prestigious movies. And I think Something About Mary was kind of a comeback for him as far as like being a marketable name in movies, and so this was kind of his follow up to that. But
well,
yeah,
I mean,
he
Wild
does
Things
play.
came out in March, and Something About Mary was June or May. June, I think.
Oh, so Wild Things was first.
Wild Things was first.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay. But yeah, that was kind of Matt Dillon's like where he was in his career at that time. And I mean, of course, Kevin Bacon was just he was Kevin Bacon. He's always had this ubiquitous kind of level of like B+ fame. Like, we
Yes.
know him. He's great. He's always been around. We
The
love
6
him.
degrees of Kevin Bacon
Yeah,
thing, I
yeah,
think, was
yeah,
like
of course.
everybody knew that expression in some way, which is like kind of, it's weird that he became like the face of that idea. I'm like, well, every single actor is like that.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, every actor's like that. And I think the thing is that he's just was made a career on kind of being a character actor. So he's just in a lot. And this is like kind of early days of IMDb, so I think people just kind of took it and ran with it. And he's got a fun name.
It is a fun name. Who doesn't love bacon? Well, I guess there's a lot of people who don't love bacon.
Yeah,
I shouldn't
yeah,
say that. But a lot of people love bacon.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon.
And his whole thing is that he shows his ass in a lot of movies.
Kevin Bacon described the script as the trashiest thing he's ever read, but every few pages there was another surprise. And then he just ended up being the exec producer of the movie.
And he had to.
Yep.
Did you read about how he had to like basically he had a no nudity clause in his contract, and
Yep.
then they ended up using the take where you see his dick.
I think
and
that-
then he's like, "Well, am I going to sue myself? I guess we're just going to leave it
I
at
think
it."
that, well, he told the editor that just use whatever take that I look the best. And she's like, well, okay.
You know which one I like the best.
You know which
Yeah.
one I like the best.
I
Yep.
mean, I still maintain that to this day, that final gag, that final goopery of the movie, that they're in on it together. I mean, there's stuff in the trivia. You know, who knows how real this is, but there's stuff in the trivia that they were in the shower together.
There is.
That
I heard
Dillon,
this was confirmed
yeah.
actually by the screenwriter in some interview where he said, "Yes, we actually did have more of those." So there was actually going to be an erotic kind of
Yeah.
link between those two men. Because I saw it on Twitter. Someone's like, "Okay, I have always seen this tension, and I've always thought that there was something more to this, and I know." And then now I have confirmation. He linked to the article where the screenwriter is saying specifically, yes, there was more. There was going to be a relationship
Okay.
between these two guys, and then it got cut, so it kind of ended where it was. So I'm like, well, you know, the dick kind of points in the right direction to the audience, to the things that were left on the cutting room floor.
I think in '98, maybe the world just wasn't ready.
They weren't ready yet for Kevin Bacon, Matt Dillon,
You know,
shower scene.
We were barely getting. We had our one episode of Next on MTV. With like,
oh my god, the one
the gay
episode.
episode of Next that we all remember.
I also felt like this director felt like they were probably skating on pretty thin ice with most of this movie. That,
oh my God.
I think that throwing in more homoeroticism between those two,
not more any. There's none.
Like you can
in the
sell the movie with
Yeah.
Lesbian eroticism,
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
male homosexual
Okay, sure.
eroticism
Yep.
added to it, then makes it seem like it's today we'd be like, what's this woke movie?
Yeah,
you know, or
yeah,
some bullshit.
yeah.
But like that, I think
Trash.
you're right. It's like if you add the male homosexual content
Uh-huh.
to any mainstream movie, it automatically takes it down a peg in terms of box office,
Right.
Acceptability for a widestream audience. It's still kind of taboo in that way, but you know, it's just like classic. You know, straight men run the business. They are happy to see two women together, two
Yeah.
hot women like these women. They can sell that, but you put Kevin Bacon and Matt Dillon, and it's over.
Yeah, totally.
They robbed us.
Yeah, they did, and I think when you watch it today, and I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just because I am a homosexual, but maybe when I watch it, I'm
What?
just like, oh, right. I mean, newsflash, heard it here first. But I feel like when I watch it, I was just like, oh well, why aren't they like in bed together? I feel like that after everything that's been going on, and they're just like buddies sharing a beer, and we're
Right.
gonna split this money. All right.
Daphne Rubin Vega almost got a kiss if that car horn hadn't gone off at that exact moment. But no, we can't get one between these.
Yeah.
So that's how that. But I heard that was actually a thing that they had written
Okay.
into this story.
Okay.
And it got cut. Well, we have plenty of other delights to glory in.
Yeah,
I was
sure.
going to say kind of what makes this film as a quintessential 90s queer classic. I have kind of a list in my notes. Well, first we have Denise and Neve. I feel like Denise Richards has always had gay fans. She has a lot of gay horror fans. She was hot off of Starship Troopers. See our Starship Troopers episode. We did an entire 2-hour episode on that movie, and she followed this movie with Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Right? It was like,
Yep.
this was just like, she was on a hot streak,
Yeah,
literally,
yeah.
with these movies. And then there's something about her look also that's so extreme.
Oh my God.
Like
Yes.
the
Yeah.
extreme lips, the extreme
So
big
cute.
eyes.
Yeah.
Like she's beautiful in a really weird. And this movie,
A
like,
weird way.
really,
She
I feel
looks
like she was
fake.
born to play this role.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
this movie, she is living it up, and she's like, I've never done a role, which was kind of true actually. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
she took it to it like a fish to water,
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
a gator to the Everglades.
Saint
you're
Denise
absolutely
from
right.
Saint Denise from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
But I mean, she's still capitalizing on her looks 25 years later. I mean, she has a successful OnlyFans.
Yep.
Which it's like,
Which surprised me when I found that out.
Inspired by her daughter.
Who she says has never seen this film and never will.
Okay.
She's because now it's having a renaissance with like teenagers again for the exact same reason. They're like, oh my
Okay.
god, look at this wild movie
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
made in the '90s, and teenagers now are discovering it. And so all of her daughter's friends are watching it now, and they're like talking about it. She's like, yeah, I don't think my kids really want to see me like that. So I'm not telling them they can't watch it, but I don't think they want to.
right.
She's
right.
always really fun whenever she does behind the scene interviews because all of these reissues of these films, Denise usually will do like a retrospect interview, and she always talks about, I think it was on the Valentine one, of that she always knows of like the type of guy that comes up to her and is just like, oh, girl dropped dead gorgeous, and she's just like, gay.
And there's people come up and say to her,
Yep.
do you want me to wax it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, come on. And also, like, what straight guy in 2023 is like, oh, Denise Richards? I don't think she's even on their radar anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not watching Housewives. They're
Right.
not pulling out their old DVD of Drop Dead Gorgeous or Valentine. I feel like straight guys who loved her in their 20s, back in the 90s, kind of are just like, I don't know, they moved on.
They've moved on.
Moved on. So, I mean, God bless her, but she has a huge gay following. And, it's
And
like, we're buying all her DVDs.
Do you
and
know
we're like,
who else has a huge gay following? Is Neve Campbell.
Sure.
So you give Neve Campbell a lot of guff. That she's just a very handsome-looking woman, which there is nothing wrong with.
Sorry.
I was a huge Neve Campbell fan when I was in junior high, and surprise, surprise, homosexual.
Right?
And I feel like Neve Campbell is that very specific type of actress that a gay junior higher could be like, oh yeah, Neve Campbell, that
Like,
one.
I love Sidney Prescott.
Especially if you were a horror fan too.
Yep.
It's like she's like, oh, she is our girl right now. You know, like I see her, I see me. I will follow her. That's why I watched this movie initially, is because she was in it.
Oh, same.
I was only, like I said, I didn't know who Denise Richards was. I had not seen Starship Troopers yet. And it was really because Neve Campbell was in it that I had to watch it. And then I was like, what a delightful surprise it was.
And it's a very interesting choice and role when
Right?
going off of something like Scream, and also
Party of
just
Five.
on Party of Five. I think that she just really wanted
Party of
to
Five
do
is like an
something
epicenter of
risque,
queer
Yeah.
90s love. Like, but yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I mean, Party of Five is like, it must be recognized. It's got like
Lacey Chabert
We have
from Mean
Lacey-
Girls.
We have Lacey Chabert, Jennifer Love Hewitt,
Scott Wolf.
Scott Wolf,
and what's his
Cutie
name from
Scott-
Lost?
Scott
Who-
Wolf,
Matthew
Yeah,
Fox.
Matthew Fox, appropriately named.
We don't like Matthew Fox anymore because supposedly he's canceled. 'Cause
I
he-
only liked him visually.
I can't
anyways,
remember.
you know, so
I can't even for the life of me remember what he's canceled for.
I think he beat up his wife.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, that.
Yeah. I'm not laughing at the fact.
I
that he
know.
did it. I'm saying,
I'm like at the disparity
yeah,
between. We're
right.
like, oh, he was so hot.
yeah.
Oh.
Ooh.
I also remember
Yeah,
as,
so
as
Matthew Fox
Lost
is out.
was airing, I think he had a big substance abuse problem too.
Right. But Scott Wolf, on the other hand,
Scott Wolf.
He gave us a lot of beefcake too. What was that movie, White Squall? Do you remember
Scott
that
Wolf,
movie?
just any chance for him to be in a movie in tidy whities, he jumped at the chance.
He gave it
He
to
was
us.
in White
Evening
Squall.
Star.
Evening Star. Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah.
We need to do an Evening Star episode.
I think you should.
Yeah.
That is true camp.
And I have just the listener for it.
Yeah.
Scott Wolf is very dreamy, and his wife was on the Real World New Orleans.
Yeah.
So it's like he is so nice. Like, it doesn't get any more 90s.
a very formulative,
than marrying someone from
a
the
very
real world.
formulative season for young gay men was Real World New Orleans.
Yeah. Because of Danny. So Party of Five has its like huge. I mean, it was a big show for a lot of people. I mean, Jennifer Love Hewitt alone was like, she's why I watched,
Right.
Because I love Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Her spinoff.
Her spinoff was called. I forgot what it was called.
Time of Your Life.
Time of Your.
That was her spinoff to Party of Five.
Yeah, she got
Oh
her
my
own
God.
show.
I think it was probably canceled mid-season.
that tracks.
They ran out of slouchy cardigans with
Right.
that the sleeves were just a little too long.
I remember watching that show also because I was like, at the time, I was like one of those, kids. I have my father's Indian, my mother's American, but like, if you're a child of an Indian, you have to have at least 3 extracurricular activities going on. And one of them for me was violin.
Oh.
And so I played violin at the time. And anytime I saw anyone playing violin in any movie or anything, I was like, oh, I have to watch it. There's like somebody who's doing something that I'm doing.
Sure.
I don't know why I had to, but so I watched that show and I would always be like, oh, she's not really playing that violin. I can tell the way she's holding it.
Was it J-Love or was it Lacey Chabert?
Lacey Chabert.
That's right.
But I still watch it anyways because there was like some elements of her like having to go to like orchestra or carrying her violin case around. I'm like, that's me. But then the person that I came out loving the most out of that show was Neve Campbell because then Scream came out and I was like, we all know. So
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's got this movie for her. We saw her in so many seasons in Party of Five, and then we see Sidney Prescott, who, I mean, for all intents and purposes, is a goody two shoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
She ends up being a badass. She was so good in Scream 5.
It's hard to tell where you are now.
Yeah, yeah,
Scream 5. Yes. Scream.
yeah. Scream 5.
The one that should have been called 5 Cream, but they decided not to use the numbers in the title anymore.
5 Cream was
And-
how the marketing looked. I hate it.
She is a woman that knows her self-worth. When she
Yes.
saw the offer for Scream 6,
Yes.
she was just like, I'm going to sit this one out.
Right.
Like, I'm worth more than that, and you know it.
Right. But okay, so what I want to know is, inquiring minds want to know, how well do you think she pulls off this Florida Bayou trailer
Swamp trash.
She got her shoes at Whores R Us. Or what was it called?
It was Whores.
Horse
So
for
in the
Less.
trailer, it says Tramps for Less. And then in the movie, it's actually Whores for Less.
Yeah.
I like Whores for Less more.
I do too. There's something better about the word whore.
Yeah.
It's like
I have that in my notes as queer classic elements quotable dialogue. Where'd she get the
Whore.
shoes? Horse for less.
So do we,
she has so many lines in this
She
movie.
does,
Her
yeah.
line, she gets the best line readings in this movie. Like
I hate you.
3 words, and she makes the most of it each time. We'll get there.
But what do we think of Neve pulling off this bad girl character?
I think
Is
it
she
works.
doing it?
Well, you put enough eyeliner on somebody
is
and cut their
what
hair
I'm
short
saying.
and
She had
put
those-
dark hair.
She
You
had
got
those
it.
black. She had those black bad girl streaks.
No. She has dark hair. There were red streaks.
Yeah.
Red
Dark
streaks.
hair.
Yeah.
I did believe so. There was the element of believability to somebody because when she is laying back and smoking a joint, I'm like, she's done that before. That is believable, and I think also the filmmaking kind of
Yeah.
lends to it because every time you see her, she's in that like Gator Swamp
Sure.
motel, whatever it is
Yeah.
that she lives at. I think it was like a trailer park.
Lives
kind
at
of.
with
It was
their
well. They had
grandma?
like the grandma.
They had
has
like a
this
Gator
whole
World
mini Gator World situation
sort of thing,
going on
yeah.
in front.
Yeah.
But then she has her own trailer in the back,
Which
So,
is like
okay.
a fabulous trailer. But yeah, the environment around her kind of all adds to the sort of swampy Florida atmosphere. So it really lends a lot
Yeah.
to her. Like she kind of can just slip right into it.
Sure.
So I feel like it's believable because there's a lot of actual elements of the filmmaking that give you that.
Yeah.
And she doesn't ever destroy that vibe.
Sure.
I
for
think
me.
it works.
I think it works.
I at first I was like, oh my goodness, with the set design in this trailer. But then the more I looked, the more I was like, it's pretty right.
right?
It's pretty right.
Yeah.
So there was the plastic beaded curtains, which I loved. There were, just posters. She had like L7, of course,
As
poster.
right. She's reading Celine.
She's reading Celine. I think there was a Smashing Pumpkins poster.
I think there was. I think you're right.
But L7 was the big one, and then she had a little TV. And a lot of times in the 90s, if you had a TV in your room as a teenager, it was like a small shitty TV,
Yes.
right? But her TV had a candle on it, and the candle they just like lit it and let the wax drip onto the TV itself. And I was like, my mother would have thrown me out of that.
She's that type of girl, Pete.
We gave you this television, and look what you did.
Yeah, but I was like, I love that like little note that they did where she just lit this candle on the TV and just fucking let it burn. And there's like wax coming all down the side. You don't see it until the detective comes in.
Yeah, Duquette.
Yeah.
That name.
I love the two of them, by the way they played off each other.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Bacon and what is the actress's name? that plays the female detective.
Daphne Rubin Vega.
Daphne Rubin Vega as Gloria Perez. Yeah.
She's the only one who like sees through everything right away and nobody listens to her.
Hey, I mean, for a movie set in Florida in the 90s, there's one brown person in it.
I was just, I think she's the only person of color in the entire film, and I'm like, this is Florida. Like, I mean, granted, it's a movie in the 90s, but like, if you're into Florida, like, there's tons of people of color. There's Indian people. There's people like from all the Caribbean
all kinds of Latin,
people, like everywhere. But in this movie, well, it's also I was curious when they do the opening of the movie, and there's that opening shot going over first like the Everglades and the swamps, and then it gets to like civilization.
Right.
You know, I'm like, how big is this school district that Neve Campbell from her trailer park is going to the same public school as like the princess of Blue Bay?
Is there like a off
Blue Bay?
Is there like
just like
is there any dialogue that she's there on scholarship or anything?
No.
And I thought that too, because I thought the idea was, like you said, they start off kind of showing Florida, like the natural landscape and everything. But then it kind of goes into like, oh, bitch, this high school is on the water.
Yeah.
This high school looks like a country club.
This high school
and it has a sailing class.
Sailing class, all right.
That the guidance counselor teaches.
Yeah. So this is that kind of school. But then also, you know, whores are us. Like she with her like shitty like Beetle.
Could you imagine
that,
your high school guidance counselor looking like Matt Dillon?
Well,
always wearing those short shorts to school.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this: the opening of the movie, that's the very first goop gag geekery.
You see the girls being like, "Oh, look at his eyes."
Yeah,
like you hear some girls say that,
Yeah.
and I'm like, and that was a weird shot too, because at first you think it's like, okay, this is a first-person camera shot, and then at some point it's like the camera's suddenly right behind him, like now we're following him.
Yeah,
it was a really subtle, weird thing, and I'm like, it still jars my eye when you see it. But then it's like you see all the girls responding to him as he passes by, and you get the vibe of who this guy is in this community.
I just assumed it was a student, and then it's like, oh, it was Matt Dillon. And it's like, well, of course, if he's any kind of a high school teacher, the girls are going to be like, what the fuck, because it's Matt Dillon.
And then I love that opening scene in the school, like where it's like, I guess this is what high school was like for some people. I don't remember. They called it like their seminar, the like semester seminar. I'm like, what is this seminar where they're now talking about sex crimes?
Yeah,
in the middle of it.
Have they been doing this the entire school year?
Yes.
Is it the first day of class? Is it the last day of class?
I have no clue. But on the stage behind him,
either.
did you notice on the stage behind him, like there's the big chalkboard, and then to the right, when you first see him on stage, all the way to the right, there's a poster for the school production of South Pacific. I'm like, okay, it seems like an odd time to plug that show.
We kind of thought that it might be paid off later in the movie,
but no, I guess not.
No.
They're not even on the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, they're on the Gulf Coast.
But yeah, like that whole moment of him walking, and I love that Denise Richards' first line, she like sits down and she's like, oh. She's giving him the eye already, but then someone reaches for the little bow on her weird schoolgirl outfit, and she's just like, fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Best intro.
They kind of set up that there's like a guy that kind of is maybe a boyfriend with her, but he's
some
gone.
other rich boy.
Yeah. He's gone. He's out. We don't hear from him after that first scene, but it's fine. We haven't even talked about fucking Bill Murray.
He's in this movie.
They got Bill Murray for this movie. And I mean,
movie.
I'm assuming that he just was a fan of Henry
Portrait of a Serial
Killer.
Like,
and wanted to work with this
director.
director.
It's curious. Like, I wonder if there's any material on like what drew him to this project, because he's only in it for like 5-7 minutes.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And
pivotal
also,
moments, but
yeah, very pivotal moments. And he does kind of change the tone of the movie in every scene that he's in. But it works.
Yeah.
He gives it the comic tone that, like, I think is perfectly in line with the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie, I think, is supposed to be comical in a lot of ways.
He knows what it is.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing there. And it is a perfect little, like, I love his office, the comedy they wring out of his little law office with his secretary every time announcing people, just standing up and yelling over the wall.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Bobbin.
And the fact that he only uses his intercom, even though she's
right there
within earshot.
Can you show them in, please?
Yeah. Okay. So it's going to be impossible to give a one sentence or two sentence synopsis of this movie because there's so much intrigue in this. But I mean, right off the bat, we just have to say, and this is what's given away in the trailer. Matt Dillon is the guidance counselor of Blue Bay High School. and he's like a sexy young guidance counselor. All the students love him. The girls love him because he's hot. The boys love him because he teaches sailing. And
he's the educator of the year, so the school loves him. The principal loves him.
Yes.
That big-ass glass bowl on his desk.
That Stanley Cup that he got for being teacher of the year.
Educator of the year or whatever.
Crazy. Denise Richards is a sex pot student that
Kelly Van
is
Ryan.
A little too familiar with him, but he's playing it off like, all right, Kelly, I'm giving you a ride home, but get out. And
I'm also going to invite this boy along, too, for the ride home, just so we can keep it kosher.
Right. We see that Kelly's mother, played by Theresa Russel.
Who I love.
Who we love. And
what an intro.
Her coming out in that bikini with the white robe, she is living in this movie. And the short hair really works for her. I did not think it would. For people who saw Black Widow and loved that movie, was she also in the movie by Ken Russell called Whore?
Whore, yeah, she's in that.
She's in that. Like, there's something I love
That's where
her.
I know her from, yeah.
Right. Whore. Yeah. She knows all about whores for less. But yeah, like, I love her in this movie. She just looks fabulous in every single scene.
I almost, for a minute, was like, Theresa Russell playing Denise Richards' mother?
I did the math.
That's crazy.
I did the math.
Is it like 15 years?
It kind of checks out.
It's like 15 years.
It works.
I mean, it's an extreme.
Yeah, but you learn that in this plot that, like, she's kind of had a previous fuckboy relationship with him.
Yeah.
And at the same time, her daughter is attracted to him.
Yeah.
And then it comes to this is like the thorny part. Like, it's pretty, I was surprised I'm watching. I'm like, oh, this hinges on a plot. The plot hinges around a fake R-word allegation.
Right.
Which is like, okay, this could go very wrong if you're not playing this right. And somehow never does go wrong.
They kind of not gloss over it, but
it's an important part of the story. And somehow I was impressed also with the sensitivity of the detective when she's talking to Denise Richards.
Right.
It was like she doesn't overplay like I'm the asshole detective or I'm just trying to pump you for information. It was like, oh, okay, like there's something about this that feels like suitable,
right?
In a way, but she's also the one who, like, after that, she's like, "Oh no, bitch."
Yeah. So you know, we get set up at the beginning that Denise Richards hates Neve Campbell because she is a poor, dirty, poor girl, and she hates her. And but Denise Richards is also being a little too pushy with Matt Dillon. I think she has to know about the past relationship with her mother.
Oh, yeah, I think she does for sure. Because she says it right in front. Like, she says, like, why don't you come in for a drink, Sam? And then when he's like, no, thanks anyways, and he drives off, and you see Denise Richards give her mom that, like, look, like, you fucking bitch. You already had that dick, and I want it now.
Yes. So, you know, we find out that, you know, Denise Richards accuses Matt Dillon, you know, of a sex crime, and
how ironic!
After this assembly
presentation on sex crimes, which at least the students boo,
and they boo,
and they boo the cops. Good kids,
yes, right, ACAB. But they play it off very like you don't know if it happened or not because she goes into the house after he says, "I will meet you later." Get out of my house.
Well, yeah, because she shows up. She sends her friend home. I love that her line when she gets there. Where's your hose, Mr. Lombardo?
Shows up to wash the Jeep.
Yeah.
The dirty Jeep. Her white shorts and white top.
In her white shorts.
And I'm like, when a school has like a car wash fundraiser, is it like house calls?
I was confused about that too. I'm like, you know, it seems like this community is very spread out. It seems like a big responsibility to ask students to just like wander all over.
He needed to immediately be like, go back to school and I will bring the Jeep. But, you know, we find out that he doesn't really do it because it's all a ruse.
It's all a ruse. But you get that great shot of her standing like dripping wet in her white
all this
shirt
stuff
and shorts
leading
in
up
his
to
house,
it.
giving him that look.
Yes.
That moment, like that's why I was like, she knows what she's doing for someone who's never done this kind of role before. Yeah. She has seen enough. She's watched the Skinamax porn noirs with her friends before this movie.
And so, so we also did the math and found that Denise Richards is 26, 27 when she's shooting
at this time
when she's shooting this movie.
Safe.
Yes. Yeah. Playing a high school student.
That's about right.
You know, it's the 90s.
Right.
So, and again, they gave all this away in the trailer. The whole courtroom, you know, reveal. So, you know, this Matt Dillon is like, He's getting threats from the public. He's getting fired from his job. He's getting
RW.
run off the road.
RW,
And the
his
whole reason I'm
girlfriends.
recapping this is because I need to find out who the fuck Robert Wagner is supposed to be in this movie.
I have no idea.
Robert Wagner is the father of
Matt
the
Dillon's
woman
girlfriend.
of the woman that he's seeing.
Barbara
but,
Baxter.
But
but why
also
is he-
maybe in the legal counsel.
I thought he was the
I'm like, is
lawyer
he
of
the-
Theresa Russell, but then in
Theresa
court,
Russell?
the,
Yeah.
the
I think
judge is like,
he
"You're not the lawyer."
like the district attorney
He must-
of Blue Bay. I
he
think that's
must
kind of the
be.
vibe I got. But he's also like a social, like a wealthy.
Yes.
As he's of the wealthy elite, and so if you are with him,
It-
you're in.
It strikes me as the character of Tom Baxter that was probably a bigger deal when they signed him and they got Robert Wagner.
So-
and then
Right.
probably just a lot of it just ended up getting cut.
What I love,
Yeah, because I was always very confused about his relationship to any of
Yeah.
these people. But I do love that moment in the courtroom when he's like, "Your Honor, may I say something?" She's like, "Mr. Baxter, you were not trying this case. Go sit down." I'm like,
oh.
yes, I love this judge.
yes, but I love when Robert Wagner sees him at the country club, and like he has that moment, and it's Robert Wagner. I mean, it's not. This is not like Laurence Olivier or anything. It's
Right.
he's freaking heart to heart for God's sake, but but it's still Robert Wagner, right? He was married to Natalie Wood. Maybe
I was going to say, like,
killed Natalie Wood.
what do you know about Natalie's whereabouts now, Robert?
But it's like there he is.
Oh.
Yep.
How handsome was he as a young
was
man?
very
oh
handsome.
my
Looking at that
goodness
picture right now.
gracious.
Listeners were pointing to a framed
Um,
picture that we have of Natalie and Robert.
But I love the moment at the country club when he's just like, "All right, your time, you're finished.
You're done in Blue
finished.
Bay."
You're done in Blue Bay." And like Matt Dillon like tries to like say something to him, and then Robert Wagner just says something like, "Get the fuck out of here!" And I was like,
Goodness, such language.
"Oh my goodness, slap me, Robert Wagner! I will get the fuck out of here."
And
Woo.
I mean that's just sort of the dynasty element of this plot.
Yes,
too,
yes.
Of the
Rich
intrigue,
Southerners.
the
Yeah,
intrigue
yeah,
and
yeah.
politics of this small town in Florida.
The small swamp town in Florida.
But something
I
about
love that
these-
courtroom, though. What city are they
Oh,
in with
my
that
goodness.
magnificent
Yeah.
courtroom with that huge portrait
It looked like
above
it.
the judge's chair?
It looked like a cheesecake factory.
And then it becomes like the scene of
Courtroom.
like Mink's stolen cereal mom
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
dragged out of court. You skanky bitch! Like, oh.
That
Yeah.
scene where Denise throws the water
pitcher?
glass at
So
Neve.
okay, so here's what we're saying.
I heard that was pretty terrifying.
Oh, it looks scary. First
Tell
of
me,
all.
you have a story I could tell.
Well, no, I was just going to say, like, we talked about how she levels these very serious allegations
Yes.
against her high school
Counselor.
guidance counselor. They turn out to be fake.
And then actually real in the end.
They get-
She has a tantrum in the courtroom. She throws a glass towards the judge, like
Right.
towards the bench.
After Susie cracks on the witness stand.
She's like She's
Oh
screaming.
my
She
God,
has
when
this outburst.
Susie spills the tea.
Oh,
Yep.
It's
love
like,
it.
oh, and then she found out Mr. Lombardo was doing her mom, and then she lost her. I'm like, oh,
You fucking bitch!
this was the trial to cover for sure.
Yeah, or like she calls her like the C word. But like
Oh, that's later in the
there
pool.
are no repercussions
None.
for Denise Richards.
She's just riding the limo on the way home from the courthouse. I'm like, they put her in handcuffs, but then she's in the limo.
But then
like,
she's in the limo.
later. I'm like, did she
I
get
mean,
arraigned? I don't know what happened.
I guess the repercussions are the $8.5 million. Like, I mean, I
Right,
guess
yeah.
it's that.
She broke my trust to
Yeah.
pay you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're to believe that that's how she was punished. Was her broken trust fund, $8.5 million, nothing to sneeze at. But it's like, bitch. I mean, it's a settlement, so I guess that's it. I guess I don't know.
Like that was the plot. Was
Yeah.
like, okay, like we find out when she shows up at his
Yeah.
sleazy motel room with all the neon lights.
Oh my
And
God.
the mosquitoes buzzing
Yeah.
outside.
Was there
the
a really
screen door.
slow ceiling fan? I'm sure.
Yes, there was, of course. But like then you're like, oh, this was a plot by her.
Yeah.
To get money out of her trust because she can't touch it till her mom dies because it's from
Yeah.
her grandfather. And of course, Mr. Lombardo, but she's doing it because she's, even though she's playing this like super mature, sexy young woman, she is still a teenager.
Yeah.
And so she thinks that there's really some relationship happening
Right,
there.
right.
And then you discover, oh no, Neve Campbell.
She was in on it too.
She shows up out of the bathroom with another bottle of champagne, and she kind of feels like the person that like want, like, it's like you're at the origin and there's the one person who is like not really a part of the group that is like trying to get in there.
She was the third.
She was definitely the third
You
person.
know,
on
and
the
she's like, I'm
three-way,
here
yeah.
too.
She's the third
I've
wheel.
got champagne.
Absolutely.
I'm like, oh, she gets in there. He's like, you two kiss. I'm like, okay, this guy's a creep.
So I believe she says what's $8.5 million divided by 3 or something.
Yes.
And I think Bill Murray says $8.5 million. So they establish it's $8.5 million. But then later on in the movie, Kevin Bacon like hacks this.
Oh yeah,
fucking-
Sun Trust Bank or whatever
This
it was.
this I know it's 1998, but this website was like a GeoCities
Yes.
Angel Fire looking ass.
I'm like, that's the bank's
That's
website.
I mean,
something.
it's a credit union.
I think there was a flying piggy bank. Like I'm not even exaggerating. I think there was a piggy bank with wings.
I remember
this.
that shot too, and I'm like, does he still have a warrant to be like looking through his bank records
Right.
and shit? He's just doing whatever he wants, Mr. Duquette.
Yeah, but my point is, I think it's at $5 million.
It's like $5.5 million is in that account. I'm like, well, where's the other?
There's
three?
There's a missing 3. So, so I'm not wrong then.
No,
Okay,
you're right.
okay,
I
good,
saw it
okay,
too, and I
good,
was like,
good.
wait, so he's already like
In
squirreled
the
away
hole,
$3
yeah.
million somewhere.
Well, he also said,
Oh, the lawyer gets a cut too.
The lawyer got a cut, and then he also said too, like
Did he buy a new car?
he said, "I'm the lawyer bought a car with his own money," but he said, like,
Oh, yeah, he said,
I'm
"You're gonna
doing rich guy stuff.
Yeah,
I'm newly rich, so I got to be spending the money to make it look real, right?"
But that doesn't mean that I'm going to cut you out.
Yeah,
Famous last words.
you already spent $3 million of,
and we're supposed to believe you that you're going
of
to
the
still cut us
total,
in.
yeah, of the net, and I still need my share.
I also love that line in the courtroom when, I mean, I know it's supposed to be like Kelly's like, oh, I'm telling you how I was assaulted. Just like he liked me on the floor of his shitty house. And then you
His
see his
shitty
house, and
house,
I'm
yeah.
like, this house for a poor person is pretty fabulous.
The house that borders the country club.
Yeah, and he's got like,
Yeah.
you go into his backyard, it's a beautiful pool with like tropical plants, lush vegetation.
Yeah, but also you have to remember Denise Richards is living
super
in like
wealthy.
Pablo Escobar's house.
Right,
Yeah.
when they show the shot of her house when like you hear her mother fucking from outside.
I was like, is this
and it's like,
Narcos?
I'm like,
What
is
is-
that the high school?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's her house, because there's their boat parked
Yeah.
in the water in front. I love that moment too, where she's like fucking her deckhand or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Oh,
and like,
yeah.
and
Like
then
the pool
like
guy.
she's interrupted by the phone call from the school saying like, your child has been
Yeah,
absent.
the
We're
automated.
Like, and then she's just like, I'm done. He's like, wait a minute, what about me?
And she hears her skeet shooting off of
Oh yes,
Another
the deck.
She
Another
just used-
Denise
yeah.
Richards with the shotgun.
Yep.
I love that line from Denise Richards too. She's like, which one of your deck hands is that? Whichever one I want.
Denise with the shotgun cinema.
Yeah, we love it.
Yes. Pull.
Yeah, just shooting skeet over the bay.
Shooting skeet
Yeah,
over the bay,
yeah.
Denise. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, but like I feel like somebody else cursed on the stand, and the judge was like, none of that.
It was when Neve Campbell curses.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm like, oh, so the rich girl gets to curse on the stand and the poor girl doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. But then the judge is like, I believe I made it clear the court intends to hear Miss Tuller's story. And I'm like, oh, she's not letting anybody. She's not letting it. She's still sticking to her guns a little bit. This judge.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I love the like. Okay, I do think Bill Murray maybe he was badgering the witness a little bit. I don't know,
Just a little bit.
but she let that go. But also, the guy who was kind of like in charge of Kevin Bacon and his partner was
the DA.
Oh, was he the DA?
I think he was
Okay, sure.
he was like the prosecuting attorney.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I was
and
like-
he's kind of a dick, like with his feet up on the desk.
Yeah.
like bring me a case.
Yeah,
I'm like
yeah.
fuck you. Like
and just immediately believing Denise. I mean, of course,
I think you should always.
We don't
That's
want
the
to
thing.
victim
That's
shame.
what's that's
We
what the
wanna
tricky thing
immediately
is that you
believe.
should always
Yeah.
err on the side of believing anybody who makes this
Yeah,
claim.
yeah.
And that's why for the people in the movie, they knew it was such a
Right.
perfect plot because
Right.
like, oh well,
Yeah.
who was going to question this?
Yeah.
we can easily get away with this. And obviously, like he says, you're never free of something. You're never clear of something like
Yeah.
this. And it's like, well, it's all part of the plan, and it works brilliantly.
Yeah.
So we think
But Detective Gloria Perez was onto her, though.
she was
Onto her from the very beginning.
She's like, you want to know my gut? I think she's
acting.
I'm like, oh, cannot fool her.
But you know what though? Like, there's that shot after the skeet shooting, And Theresa Russel takes Denise Richards inside the house, and they're sitting on the couch.
The shot
and-
of her face.
And she's just looking off into the distance, and she's just like, and the single tear. Oh my God.
Oh my
It
God.
was like almost like a real emotional moment, kind of, but so melodramatically
Denise is
filmed.
really good in that scene.
She is. I'm like, there's some. She's really channeling right now.
Especially when you find, later, like, you understand later on that she was acting. And, you know, you're like, ooh,
and I
this
love that her
bitch.
mom is almost more offended that, like,
That it was
wait
him.
a minute. I want to have sex with him again. Like, she's like almost more upset about that than she is.
I love how pissed off Theresa Russell is when she's sitting down with the cops.
My daughter does not get in Blue Bay. It must be insane to think you could do this to me. And then they're like, it's not about you. Like, to remind you this didn't happen to you.
Yeah, slapping the table.
You're fine.
Just like,
You've got the deckhand waiting outside.
Oh my God. When he runs Matt Dillon off the side of the road in that Jeep.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. And then he just gets home. I'm like, how did he get home?
Yeah, they cut to the house later on. The Jeep's in the driveway.
They somehow got it towed out.
All right. Did the guy who's like, wait, why don't you? I'll wait here for the tow truck to come.
Yeah.
And then I'll leave.
Were you reading about the dead body that was found in the swamp
I did
behind
hear about that.
one of the shots?
my
I
God.
think that it was when I think Denise Richards drives Neve Campbell when they've been drinking.
Yes.
When they try to off Neve Campbell. I think
Okay.
it's in that scene. Denise says that they found a dead body in the swamp, and they had to pause production for the authorities to come fish it out.
For the real police to come and do something.
Because I guess they're just filming in Florida. That's what happens.
That's what happens in the swamp. The swamp is a repository for all human sin.
All of these ominous shots of
covers all.
gators. Just
I
kind
love of wild animals.
all these wild animals. Like, oh, bitch, the gators know.
The gators
know all.
They're, right? And like, and it's like obviously making a very obvious like correlation between the predatory, horrible people and the animals. Like, this is what comes out of the swamp, both people and animal. Everything that comes out of here is predatory and dangerous.
Yeah. There is a musical cue that they play.
Oh, we have to talk about the score
When
of this
the-
movie.
There's a musical cue that
wrote
they
this
play
song?
when
George
the gators.
Clinton.
Oh, get the fuck out of here!
Funkadelic. George
Okay.
Clinton of the Funkadelics
Because-
did this score.
Every time they play that little musical cue with the gators, it gives me this Stone Temple Pilot song, and every time I'm like, "Oh, they're gonna play that Stone Temple Pilot song." It's the '90s. No, it's not.
No,
it's
it's not.
the leitmotif of the gators, like knowing everything.
They're just edging you with the Stone Temple Pilots intro the whole movie.
Seriously, it's just that first
This,
little like
this movie does miss
twangy.
like. There's music in this movie, but it's music from the '90s that I can't recognize. Like, how
No,
did
they're
the
not hit
soundtrack?
songs.
How did the soundtrack not get like?
Yeah.
Okay, Third Eye Blind. That was what they
Yes.
really shot the load up
Yeah.
in the budget. They got the big Third Eye Blind song.
And that was like, well, we promised the rest of George Clinton, so I guess we're just going to have to go with some indie bands nobody cares about right now.
Yeah, they got. Yeah, they got
I'm going to say that
soundtrack-
now all the people who love all those bands are like, how dare you?
Oh, I don't know about any of these.
We're just going to bring in some session
It
musicians.
says there's a Smash Mouth song in there.
Meh.
Love Machine is in there. Barry White. But yeah,
Oh, yeah, there is. They play Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe at one moment, and it's like a really weird cutaway from one scene to the next. I'm trying to remember what the scene before it was, but I remember like the music playing in the background. Oh, it's the scene where they're talking about where Sam Lombardo is in the principal's office and they're showing the picture of the fish. He's like, oh, if you haven't been chasing booty at the yacht club, you could have caught one of these with me. And it's like coming after another scene of some inappropriate conduct. And then it's like, Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe is playing in the principal's office. I'm like, that's interesting choice, principal, but okay.
I loved in Nev's reveal, her initial intro in the trailer, they're playing Not an Addict by Kay's Choice, which was a huge song.
See,
in
so there was
98.
some good
Yeah.
choices.
They're buried.
Yeah.
They are buried.
Yeah. But yeah, Semi-Charmed Life is like, that's the big one. But Not an Addict, I feel like, I don't know if thematically it's not necessarily like, oh, these lyrics, but it's perfect tonally, the way the music sounds, and just like that like the lead singer like moaning as she's like, as we like cut to her reading this book on her little bed. I love that song. Was that song a cover? I think that's one of those songs that was secretly a cover. I'll have to look it up.
No.
I'll have to look it up.
But that whole setup of Susie is so confusing when you get to the end. 'Cause you're
Yes.
like, wait a minute.
Oh my god.
At what point? Like I can't help my brain cannot help going back to like at what point? Like she's been acting the entire time. Like everything that you've seen her do the entire
Yeah.
movie
Yep.
is her performing for people, basically. Because she's, we find out then she has a genius IQ. It didn't stop her from buying that horrible wig, but she's super smart. But so you come to believe, like, does her family know?
Think what's
But she doesn't really have a family.
Well,
Like,
also,
it's not really her
there is
grandma.
sort of a throwaway incest backstory that it mentions briefly, and then it quickly changes the subject.
Where was that again?
It's when the detective is coming to see the grandmother at the end of the movie.
She says something about like it's
What is it?
No. The thing is that Theresa Russel and Susie are somehow related.
Okay,
That's
she's
what she
like an
said.
aunt or a grandmother
Yeah.
or something. Something happened to Susie's parents that we're not quite clear about.
She said like her mom, but
The
she
script-
said, and incidentally, it's so and so's sister. And I think that's what you were thinking.
yeah.
But she means
It
that,
glosses over it really quick.
I think she meant that Theresa Russell, Denise Richards' mother in the movie, is Susie Neve Campbell's aunt.
I
So
think
they're
I
like
remember
cousins.
Some of this, I can't remember where I read this.
Yeah.
I think I remember reading something about that too,
Yeah.
because the whole movie is so confusing.
Yeah.
That anything could be possible.
Yeah,
really
yeah,
at this
yeah.
point. I do love those. Okay, I was very terrified for the guy who's playing with the gators. Like, he's really doing that.
Yeah,
like
gator wrestling.
He's
yeah.
really putting his head.
I
in
mean,
the
he was
gator's
probably
mouth.
just
Right?
a Gator
I'm
World
just like-
employee.
Did they just find some Florida hillbilly who does this and be like, "Hey, you're in the movie"?
Probably. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like he was an actor. He seemed very believable.
Yeah, true.
Not like someone who'd never been in a movie who doesn't know how to act in front
But
of a
that's
camera.
something that the Gator wrestlers do is that they got the mouth and they put the
Put it
mouth
under
under their chin.
chin.
And
I'm
then
like-
they kiss it and all that stuff. That's very.
They're like hitting these little pressure points.
I don't know. I
the
think it's
gator.
just like
Some-
I'm holding
there's
your mouth
some-
shut.
There's a genuine skill that is learned there.
Yeah.
How exactly and where exactly you learn this skill in Florida is
Yeah.
a mystery to be solved.
I was reading an interesting quote from the director, and he calls this the most political film that he's made due to its focus on the social class and who ends up winning at the end. It's the girl from the trailer park at
And
the
that's
very
what
end.
another thing I love about the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she beats everybody and she walks away with the money, no consequences. That was last night. Susie, be good. I'm like, oh, she'll be fine.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'll be smart enough to invest this somewhere and be able to live off it forever.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not that big of a payoff. It's like a couple million, but
It was the 90s.
good for her.
Probably a lot then.
It
Yeah.
can go far.
Yeah.
She put it in a good money market account. She'd be fine in the Caribbean somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, if you bought real estate, if you bought a house in the '90s, you're sitting pretty today,
Right?
But it's an interesting long con for $8.5 million.
For $8.5 million,
Right?
But that's a lot to someone who has no money.
Yeah.
So I could see her and it didn't. It cost her a couple teeth, but
God.
Oh, that credit sequence of
So he is acting like he's killing Susie off camera, but also Denise Richards doesn't see it. And then he brings her body back wrapped in plastic and has Denise Richards help him put it in the back of the Jeep. So Denise Richards thinks Susie's dead, right?
she thinks that was part of the
Yes.
plan
Yeah.
with her and Sam, and because she doesn't have that great reaction where he's like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm just worried if my mom catches me taking her Range Rover."
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's not concerned
Yeah.
about this girl that she's,
Yeah,
made
I
out with
have
a
that.
couple times by this point.
my mother would kill me if she knew I took the Rover.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. It's another gator of the swamp here. Is who
Yeah.
we got in Kelly Van Ryan.
Yeah, so I guess my question was, I guess he just tells her, like, I'm going to throw her in the swamp. Like, he doesn't take Denise Richards with him to do it.
No, I think he does.
Well,
I
then
think
who do
he
they throw
does.
in the swamp?
They throw Susie in the swamp, I guess. Or he makes it. That's a good question. Like,
They-
logistically,
Yeah.
where is he taking Susie if
Sure.
she's still alive?
Yeah.
And he's got his waders on.
'Cause my question was, what
that
happened
in a
to the-
real swamp or was that a set? Because you could not pay me
No,
enough to go
yeah,
wading through
I
the
hope
swamp
not.
at night in Florida.
No.
Even a day. I mean, it probably was a day for night thing. But like, oh no,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
going to walk through the
Yeah.
swamp. Not
yeah,
happening.
that was my thing. I was like, if they faked it, then who did he throw in the swamp?
Or like, did he just like, okay, I'm going to find a nice little marsh to set
I
you
think
down
he
in,
just-
and you
yeah.
come back after we've left.
Because she's wrapped
Like-
in plastic. Like,
wrapped
if he threw her in there,
plastic.
she would have like suffocated. So I think that he just told Denise Richards he was going to do it.
Because that was a little confusing too. I'm like, how did that how did they plan that?
Yeah, unless that's just a plot hole that nobody's ever really cared about.
Yeah, I guess you have to pay attention to the edge of the frame to see if like Denise's hair is like in the corner somewhere or something.
You see Neve
because they still have the
poking
Range
off.
Rover because they would have needed it to bring the body there, so she would have to be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like one of you to explain to me, because I've already forgotten it. How does Kevin Bacon's last act reveal in the shower fit into all of this? So they don't know that Kevin Bacon was in on the plan. Either Susie
does, because in the end credit sequence, one of the scenes is her. They are parked outside that fish bait and tackle shop / restaurant / bar,
and go make a friend.
And she's like, go make a friend.
Right.
And he's like, are you sure? She's like, oh, he's dirty. He'll love it. Trust me.
Yeah.
So she tells him to go,
and she has
propose
the past
this plot to him,
and she has the past with him, and also this like ex-boyfriend Davy.
Davy was okay. So we discover this. That's like the sort of not moral, but it's like the thing that it makes Neve, I think, want to get at least the detective killed, because there's that. They sort of set that up earlier in the movie where when Ray Duquette shows up and she's like, and the grandma or whoever, Carrie Snodgrass, also Academy Award nominated actress, who never smokes a single cigarette that she puts in her hand in this movie. She just holds them and never smokes them. But she's like, he comes there and he's like, oh, where? He's like, oh, well, Susie called us. Where should we find her? She's like, you know the way. And you're like, oh, why does he know the way? And then at the end, at the end of the movie, when he's like, he shouldn't have killed Kelly or that boy. What was his name? She's like, Davy. And he mentions it to her earlier when he catches her smoking a joint. And he's like, oh, I'm really sorry about that friend of yours. What was his name? She's like, Davy. Yeah. She's like upset about it still. Like it's the one thing that's like genuine is like she is still pissed about that. And then you find out from the grandma Gator World manager, Carrie Snodgrass, that she's like, she tells the story to Daphne Rubin Vega later. She's like that this detective Ray Duquette used to come to, like, he had a whore around here that he would see regularly, and then he sees, I guess he was smacking her around, and Davy, who's like the sweet kid who lived in the trailer park there, tries to stop it. He tries to protect this woman that Ray Duquette is beating up, and then Ray kills him and then says it was self-defense. And so he got away with this killing, and it becomes like, that's why they're like, oh, one time when he gets laid off, or not laid off, when he gets fired, because he killed Kelly.
And it sort of becomes the catalyst for
the whole plot.
The Susie character. Why she wants to This is very, like, deep in the story.
Yeah, and then you don't even find out like more about that until when she says it there, I'm like, oh, so part of this must be revenge for Davy.
Sure.
And so but you never see Davy. You just hear the name and you hear the story, and it's sort of thrown in there and peppers the plot here and there. Then you realize, oh, that's actually pretty important to her. But we never hear any more about that because you have to keep the mystery going.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's, I think, what the deal is with that.
Yes.
And they had Kevin Bacon all along, but they were going to kill him anyway because they lured him onto the boat.
Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to share $8.5 million.
No. Not 3 ways, not 4 ways, not 2 ways.
No way. Doesn't matter how much dick you show, Kevin. You're not getting any of this money.
I have also under clear classic elements in my notes, cat fights and pools. That fight scene.
In the pool. Who wants to say the line?
Oh, my gosh. You say it.
I was like, you stupid cunt! Like, every time she says it,
holding Neve's head under the water.
I'm laughing hysterically in this moment. And then it's like, oh my God, it's like making fun of male fantasies so well. Because it's like, of course, that fight turns into her fingers touch her lips.
Yeah. As it's being, as Kevin Bacon is in the bushes filming
and you see his eyes get like, whoa. And then you cut to the camera, zoom, 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 zoom. And then he's playing it, then it zooms out again. It zooms out on the TV in the station, and he's like, look, there they are. And the detective's like, what the fuck are you doing? Turn this shit off. You have teen girls making out on the TV in here? Like,
this plot is so batshit. And just 100% camp.
I think we've only covered like 20% of it. And we've talked about so many things.
Yeah.
It is so hard to make sense of it, which is part of its charm, I think.
But no, I think that too, that like, I keep saying, like, each time there was a new twist, I was just like, oh, okay, I don't know if I'm still following, but I didn't see that one coming. Like it's not predictable at all.
Definitely not predictable. You do not understand who is the mastermind of everything. And then at the end, you discover, oh, Susie's masterminded it with the lawyer.
Yes.
Right. I guess she's like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm going to need legal representation. Let me find a shady lawyer who will be down for this because he's going to get a couple mil out of it. And she finds that's how Bill Murray is part of the story.
Yeah.
Because, that's what he even says to Matt Dillon. He's like, what brings you to this part of town?
Yeah. Well, I assumed it was like he was the only lawyer that he could afford that would take the case.
Yeah. But who knows? Maybe Susie recommended him.
Yeah.
But do you know what this movie does that I'm a sucker for in films like this is a good old-fashioned poisoning scene.
Yes. Oh, I love it. She shows her like 200 IQ in that moment because they're sailing on a boat called the Helios.
And I like kind of the Greek tragedy parallels with Medea. And she asked him before Medea sailed away on
the
Helios, she killed King Creon and the princess with what? A rock, B, a spear gun, C, a bit of poison.
And she totally tricks him into drinking the drink because he's suspicious of it at first. And she's like, wow, paranoid much? Like, I need you. How am I going to sail this boat? I just don't know.
No,
drink the drink.
She says, drive the boat.
Drive
which is
the boat.
Even like sneakier.
It's even smarter.
Because she knows that he's going to be like, listen, sister, it's not drive.
As he's like, you don't drive it, you sail it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, she is playing him so well.
I fucking know that, idiot.
It's like, I've taken sailing lessons already. I didn't go to your shitty class, but I learned. Oh, that's right, because we find out she had her own boat.
Yep.
At the end, another little thing. This was Susie's boat.
A little sailboat. It was a little sailboat, yeah. Yeah, that shit's wild.
It all pays off.
It did. It all
brilliantly,
it all
I must say. I just never get tired of watching this movie. I never do. I think I've seen it a good 10 times.
Yeah. I hadn't
over
seen
the
it.
years.
I hadn't seen it in a while until we watched it yesterday.
Yeah.
That's the best way because then it feels fresh again. Like you don't remember all the twists.
I remembered the last scene of the movie with Neve. That I know that somehow she gets the best of everyone
with that crazy.
But I wasn't quite sure how exactly we got there. She has this blonde wig on at the end of the movie.
So we've already established that he has potentially spent about $3 million.
Right.
Then Bill Murray comes and gives her the briefcase at the end, and he says, "All that cash on the top is walking around money, less my fee, less." I think he said $1 million. For your grandma and
for
Cletus.
money and Walter Cletus.
Yeah.
Cletus, who's trying to carve some dentures he found to fit his mouth.
Yeah. So now she's probably down to $2 million.
Right. How much does she have left at this point?
800,000. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's hope she did when she bought a shitty house in Bernal Heights that's worth $3 million now.
I think Susie's pretty smart. That I think that Susie can make money with money.
She's got a Quiznos going on, and
she can go to Europe and run this scam again with some trashy French people. Where's another swamp? She just needs to find another place with swamps. Louisiana, that's where she's heading next.
I get that Neve was probably not in the business of making sequels around this time because she was already tied to one film franchise. But I want to see just her later. What's Susie up to now?
Because none of the trashy sequels covered anything with Susie. I don't think.
Were multiple.
It was more or less just a remake of Wild Things.
Yes,
Wild Things 2 with
less
Susan
talented
Ward.
actors.
Yep.
With who? Scott?
Wait, with who?
With Susan Ward and Isaiah Washington.
Oh, for crying out loud!
What?
But what about Wild Things: Diamonds in the Rough from 2005 and Wild Things: Foursome?
Yeah, foursome. Lord. But Susie's not a character in any. Is she?
Look at that poster for Wild Things 2. Oh my god, just a clone of.
Oh my god, it is. with just one person in the water instead.
Oh my god.
But yet your eyes go to Susan Ward only in this poster.
Wait, are there two people?
Yeah, there's two people.
Oh, there's another one.
Oh, I thought the reflection was it's a different person.
It's the other girl.
Oh, that's right. Okay. That was so clever.
Okay.
Oh.
Or is it too clever because we didn't notice?
Right, we didn't notice. It shouldn't.
Yeah, how do you like that? Isaiah Washington from Grey's Anatomy is somehow in Wild Things 2.
Who the hell is Susan Ward?
Well, when you're a young actor, you get what you can get.
Mm-hmm.
Susan Ward has made, she was also in Poison Ivy, The New Seduction.
She's in The In Crowd.
Yeah, but I mean, she's in shitty remakes to
Yes.
to sex dramas, shitty sequels, not shitty remakes.
Poor thing.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah,
sure where she
so-
saw herself going.
So Wild Things 2 is 2004. Okay, so there's a decent amount of time. But then they come right out of the gate with Wild Things Diamonds in the Rough a year later.
And I
But
just
yeah.
couldn't. I didn't work at the Hollywood
This
Video
is-
anymore, so I
yeah.
didn't keep up with the sequels. So once I had to pay to rent
Right,
anything
yeah.
else related to this storyline, I'm like, I'm done. I do own the DVD.
Oh, okay.
I bought the DVD of this when it came out. I've literally, it must be 20 years old now, that DVD.
Oh, yeah.
Like the same one. I'm like, I should have watched it. I wonder if that had a director's commentary. I really need to watch this, the director's
Yeah.
commentary. I really want to know more, because it's just such a
I love that it's a Shout Factory release, too.
yes.
Yep.
That's fun.
At a Steelbook special edition.
Yeah. Wild Things 3, Diamonds in the Rough, has Lyndon Ashby from Melrose Place and the Mortal Kombat movie, and Dina Meyer from
Starship Troopers.
Oh.
Yeah. But those two play the rounds of like B movies.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I'm not saying that they're elevating the
Denise
the
was
material or
saying
anything.
Denise was saying on the new Blu-ray that after she made this movie, she got a phone call from one Mr. Paul Verhoeven wondering, oh, so you did nudity in Wild Things and you didn't do it in Starship Troopers when I asked you. And she's just like, well, Paul, I guess you'll have to write me another movie. Because I think that Denise was just like, I don't think my character in Starship Troopers would be getting all naked. Like,
and she's right because
I'm like, where would that fit into that movie?
Casper, well, they had the co-ed showers in Starship
Well-
Troopers, but she didn't join the infantry with Casper Van Dien and Dina Meyer. She went kind of to like,
flight school.
yeah. So she was a little
Okay.
bit more like hoity-toity.
She's just like, I have read the script and this makes no sense.
yeah, you guys are the grunts, so you're going to be doing the co-ed showers and getting all naked in front of each other. But she's going straight to the like flight academy and like doesn't have to do that stuff.
Of course,
which
Paul
is
Verhoeven
right.
would complain to her about this.
Call
Like-
her up on the phone.
Like, you called her to, like, reprimand her for not doing a nude scene in your movie when it felt totally out of place, as opposed to a movie where it clearly makes sense.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. I swear, I'm going to have to watch it again now. I just have to watch it again. But I'm like, I swear I remember reading that in this theatrical cut of the movie that
Yeah.
there is no female nudity. There's
Yeah,
no actual
just
female nudity. The
implied,
only
yeah.
nudity is Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, in the unrated version, you see like lots of those scenes went on longer, and there is definitely nudity in those scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the one that made theaters, the only full
Yeah.
nudity is Kevin Bacon's full
Yeah.
nudity, which is really bizarre because, like you said at the beginning, like that's not how I picture the movie.
Yeah.
I remember it being like, oh, I thought they were totally naked in the pool.
The unrated version is approximately 6.5 minutes longer than theatrical, and it features only one really unrated worthy scene, the extended lesbian pool sequence between Neve Campbell and Denise Richards. The rest of the scenes are purely plot extensions.
Okay, so that's what I want. I want to see
Yep.
the plot extension because you can find the extended pool scene is on YouTube. Like,
Right. Yeah.
But I want the extra features for this movie. I want
Yeah.
to know more.
I
Just
love
what my straight guy friends were like going on and on and on about this movie at the time. I kind of thought that the big like three-way scene was just going to be so crazy graphic, and it really was.
Yeah, it's
not.
fine.
I mean, it does. Everything in the movie has that lurid quality.
I mean, it's
to
all.
it.
I mean,
yeah.
it's all about that
Lure.
shot of Denise getting out of the pool.
That
That's what led
shot
all
with
of the
that
marketing.
song with the saxophone. That is, and I love the way she dries herself off. She's just dabbing
Yeah.
herself with the towel, and then she looks at the detective. Is there some reason you're
The
here?
fuck are you doing
Yeah.
here? I love Roger Ebert's review on Wild Things. Wild Things is lurid trash with a plot so twisted they're still explaining it during the closing credits. It's like a three-way collision between a softcore sex film, a soap opera, and a B-grade noir. I liked it.
Good for you. I was thinking he would be, because a lot of the other, like the really serious film critics were like, they just saw trashy movie, which surprises me that they would just see that and instantly see this is just trash made to turn boys on, and that's all the movie is. And it was like, I think detect a distinct satirical tone throughout this film. And if you watch it as like a parody or a satire
Yeah.
of the Skinamax porn noir thriller movie. I think the movie is riotously entertaining.
And it works as a satire on class and sexual dynamics and who's playing who in the story.
Right? It's just so much fun. The movie is so fun to me.
They don't make them like this anymore.
They really don't. I don't think they can.
No, I don't think. Well, I don't think that
Nobody
you
has a sense of humor.
I don't think you could get away with doing a story that revolves around a rape like this.
Yeah, I think that that is definitely the thorniest part of it. But I think that you could. It's not that, but like a movie that is glorifying like the stupidity of the male gaze.
Yes.
Yeah.
The stupidity of male fantasies and where they lead. And of course, all the men who participate in the fantasy are the ones who all get killed.
Yeah.
And you're not rooting for any of them. You're really rooting, like when Susie ends up with everything, you're kind of like, work. You know? I like this. I like this ending.
Yeah.
So you're never meant to like be driven towards sympathizing with the men by the end of the film, because they do play you a little bit thinking like, oh, Sam, he's the victim in this. I'm like, no, actually he was predatory himself because he was fooling around with 2 teenage girls. One of them just happened to be a genius who was playing him, like a fiddle the whole time.
Yeah.
Because he's a stupid man who's, who goes where his dick leads him.
I mean, what a formulative movie for gay millennials.
Right.
This movie has everything.
It does. Oh, I'm so glad that you picked this one. Because I remember when I emailed you guys like the list, and we were going to do like a classic film, which we could still do later. But then you're like, I'm feeling this. I'm like, we're going with it.
I kind of wanted to have the Wild Things conversation.
Yeah.
I think it was necessary. And I noticed there's only been like one other podcast that I've seen that's like talked about it. I'm like, I feel like gay people, of all audiences, I feel like gay people get this movie more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Because we're also, like, we are seeing the male gaze from a different perspective. Like,
We all
sure,
remember
for sure.
pausing our tape on Kevin Bacon.
Yes.
In that split second when you see that dick.
I mean,
and I'm like, it looks like he fluffed a little bit for that shot, too.
I was just going to say.
Because it was pointing out a little bit.
It's more than a few seconds, and it is half hard.
It's not flopping.
He has a little semi.
Because
he totally does. And I was like, oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's definitely, because it looks different than it looks in Hollow Man. It's like,
oh my God, Hollow Man. I mean,
that's another one. That was 97,
there's another
I
one.
think? Right.
97, yeah.
I mean, Hollow Man was Paul Verhoeven's last studio movie.
Yeah.
Really?
He was kicked off the lot after Hollow Man.
I wonder what it was about that one that finally, like, he didn't he make Total Recall?
Yeah. Seriously.
But yeah, movies like Hollow Man and Wild Things, they do not make them like that anymore. Like, these were movies.
I think even at the time, for somebody who was like me, who was just like a 20-year-old kid, I was like, these aren't exactly prestige movies.
No.
Like, knew. The audience knew.
These were horny-ass movies.
We got that these movies were something else, that these were genre movies, that they were a little less than prestigious. And, I don't know. I feel like now they're definitely making, like, I don't know, what do you call them, below the line? Or like, are they making B movies like this anymore that even get released?
I mean, a major studio.
I don't think movies like this get released anymore. I think they just go straight to VOD. They go right to Tubi or, whatever.
I mean, I can't think of any movies like this that even go straight to Tubi.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's hard to think of any now.
Yeah,
like, maybe there are some.
Yeah.
Like, listeners.
Yeah.
Tag us on Instagram or Twitter.
I mean,
what are other movies like this of the modern day?
This movie definitely leveled up Denise Richards in her career. Mm-hmm. I would say that it's more memorable than something like Starship Troopers. I think that as fun as Starship Troopers is, maybe Denise sort of bleeds into the background a little bit in that movie.
Yeah. This is more of a star turn for her, for sure, I think. So, like, even though Neve Campbell was clearly the draw, like, I feel like of all the people in the movie, Denise Richards really comes out shining the most in terms of whose performance is the most fun. She is the most fun character.
Yeah.
She and her mom.
She's probably in it more than Neve.
Also, like,
screen time.
And remember that shot of her in their guest house where she's wearing jeans and a bra?
Yes.
It's hot out.
I'm like,
it's hot out.
Why is she
Florida.
wearing the jeans?
I know.
Like, jeans and a bra.
Yeah.
Like, is that how people in Florida walk around in their house in jeans and a bra? I'm like, if you're just at home by yourself, do you even need the bra? Or the jeans? I'm like, when it's hot out, I'm like, it's just straight. Like, I'm wearing underwear, as small a pair of underwear as I can find on this ungodly hot day is what I'm going to lounge around in my house by myself in today.
Oh, my God.
That's it. But no, jeans and a bra.
Jeans and a bra. A nice
I've
bra.
always, but her hair is, oh my God, her hair is always perfect. And even when she's just hanging out at her house, I'm like, she just has a hairdresser on standby at this mansion.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. So, the funny thing about Starship Troopers is that Paul Verhoeven said that he cast Denise Richards and Casper Van Dien because they're too perfect.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
nobody looks like them.
No.
They don't look like anybody. Like, those two
Right.
specifically-
Especially someone like Casper Van Dien.
Yeah.
And of course, at least he gives us like a nice whipping scene.
He's like a male Denise Richards. Like,
Yes.
her face looks fake. Like, her nose, like, I don't know. Like,
There's
everything
something about the
it.
features. It's like it seems almost unreal.
Yeah.
Kind of like I think I heard you mention something about Anya Taylor-Joy's eyes on another episode. Same thing where it's like this. There's something very special and unique about you. Although I feel like directors figured out how to cast Denise Richards and what she should do on screen better than I think directors have figured out what to do with Anya Taylor-Joy. I think the only one that I think that worked was Last Night in Soho. That's the only one where her performance feels like organic and like everyone understands what her role is in this movie. Everything else, she feels so out of place. Like in The Witch, I'm like, wait a minute, aren't they supposed to be like pilgrims? Like she's a pilgrim. We're supposed to believe she's a pilgrim? I'm not sure where she came from, but I'm not reading pilgrim from this at all. That's just me. Maybe it's just me. But she has such an otherworldly kind of beauty. It's so unique that like, as a director, like, they always say, directors say, like, you have to be photogenic. Like, the camera has to love you. For you to really make it in this business, there has to be something, even in person, you may look, like, she may look really weird in person. We have no idea, but on camera, it just works. Like, random people, like, off camera, when you see them in real life, you're like, oh. Like, I'm sure if you met Tom Cruise, you'd be like, oh, you're so short.
Yeah.
I guess those Apple boxes really work.
Yeah, those platforms. But yeah, Denise just has this look about her. Just everything all together probably shouldn't work. Like her nose is too small and her eyebrows are too big, and especially like in the 90s, like that eyebrow look was not the business. It was like thin, pencil, drawn in, and here's Denise. With
her Joan Crawford eyebrows.
Joan Crawford eyebrows. And we still bought it. They still loved her, And like she's got this huge mouth, like this giant Anne Hathaway mouth, but the teeny little nose. And like all these little features together, you'd be like, I don't know if that's gonna work, but
somehow it works. Like I said, she was just tailor made for this exact kind of movie.
And for these roles of this spoiled, stuck up girl.
I mean, we need to mention that she played Dr. Christmas Jones the year after this movie and The World Is Not Enough. So, I mean, the year after,
Bond movie,
the year after she was playing like a rocket scientist.
Dr. Christmas
She
Jones.
was Dr. Christmas Jones.
And he's going to make sure that Christmas doesn't only come once a year.
Oh, my Lord. I totally forgot that was her character's name in that movie. I'm like, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? I'm like, but it was like every time you look back at this period of her career, you're like, oh my God, she was making bank right here.
Yeah.
And she seems like in real life, like like a cool person. She does, not stuck up, not like full of, she doesn't take herself too seriously.
She has a very interesting dynamic on Real Housewives because she's kind of the most dressed down of all of them. Whenever they have get-togethers where they're bringing the full glam squad, Denise is kind of just showing up in like a t-shirt and cutoffs.
Yeah, she's not like, oh, here's my new Birkin bag.
But she still kind of looks better than a lot of them.
Yeah, because it's Denise fucking Richards,
right? And like whatever surgeon she's been going to, like they know what to do.
Yeah,
but we love Saint Denise. We love the kooky husband.
Yes,
her husband's a weirdo, but it's okay.
Well, you'd have to be on that show.
Yeah. But I mean, I think for sure she's kind of the standout. Even though
I wasn't really thinking this was going to be our love letter to
Denise Richards
episode, but here you go.
And I mean, granted, we did just watch Little Darlings like last week.
Yeah, that's funny.
Here's the thing about Little Darlings.
Oh my God, Little Darlings!
That movie, it's 1980, and according to that math, Matt Dillon is a little too young for us to be talking about how cute he is.
15 years old.
He's a literal. They're all Matt Dillon, Tatum O'Neal, and
Christy McNichol.
Christy McNichol are literal children.
I was going to say, like, they're all too young. But Tatum O'Neal was already smoking cigarettes at 9. I'm like,
yeah. I think she was actually like pushing 19. I think she was the oldest.
Probably. Well, yeah. Well, because when she won her Oscar, that was in like 73,
the early 70s.
She was 9.
Yeah.
She was like 9 years old when she won. So this is, if it was 1980, then it's like that would be 7. She's still a teenager.
Okay, so
I think she's still a teenager at this time.
Yeah, and yeah, Matt Dillon was 15, and I mean, yeah,
Very
too young.
all too young. It's amazing the things you could get away with in movies
Yes,
back then. Like
yeah.
you could the people you could cast for a role
The
and what you can ask them to do.
Stealing condom machines from bathrooms.
The entire plot of Little Darlings is which one of them is going to lose her virginity first, and it is like a junior high summer camp.
Very like
No.
that's another one. You're like, we're just not going to
No.
make that one
Yeah.
in the modern day and age.
At least in American Pie, they were like seniors in high school, like they were going to college,
and they were all
like-
clearly not high school students.
Yeah. Little Darlings is fucking wild, but it's like, you know, I'm just saying, like, we could have, like, I thought we might focus on like how dreamy Matt Dillon is, but like, and you love Neve Campbell so much, but we're just like fucking Denise Richards.
It just
She's the,
happened.
she's the goat. It's a serve.
It really is.
We love her.
Like she will live forever in this movie.
Yeah.
Every single shot of her is like even you notice like the camera. Like I feel like that satire of the male gaze thing is like the camera always seems to land on her breasts, like no matter where she is. Like in the pool, it's like, oh, we don't even need her face. You know, we're just gonna cut this shot of her holding Nev's head in the water is perfect to get her boobs in the shot. You know, you keep getting moments like that throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I appreciate anybody who was game to read this script. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that there were discussions. I don't think anything was a surprise to her when they were filming.
Right.
That she was like, yeah, this sounds like I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this.
She has nothing but great things to say about the director and working with him and just kind of how accommodating all of them were.
You kind of get that vibe from the movie itself. Like there's a little bit in moments where you're like, okay, this is somebody who's actually sensitive to certain things. So I can't believe that he's just being trashy and he just wants to show us women's bodies just for the pleasure of seeing women in bikinis in the pool. I feel like there's more going on there. And then to hear that the relationship on set and the working relationship actually was congenial and professional and that she has fond memories of making the movie, that says a lot for a movie like this. If you can have fond memories of this movie, being in this movie, that means that there was more going on beneath the surface than maybe you would first assume from the trashy veneer that they so gloriously construct for us. Because that's what drew me in.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
when you get into the movie, I'm like, oh, I am loving the trashiness of this.
Yeah.
I may have like only had sex with one person at this point in my life, but something feels right.
Yeah. And you know, it's like because of the subject matter, it's like yes, they're supposed to be high school students, but it's kind of like you don't care that Denise Richards is 27.
No.
No.
It
Campbell's-
almost works more
Yeah.
that they look too old.
Yeah. Yeah. They look like contemporaries with Matt Dillon.
Like there's a little too much carnal knowledge for some of these actors, like to be like actually teenagers.
Yeah.
But you know, we should give Matt Dillon his due because he is pretty fine in this movie.
I
You
remember
know.
having a huge thing for Matt Dillon at this time.
Yeah.
I think it was more so something about Mary.
He's so
Yeah.
gross in something about
He's so
Mary.
gross in something about Mary, but I remember thinking
The teeth.
when I was
Yeah.
young, he kind of does it for me.
He does kind of like I
very
said, those little shorts in the sailing class. I was just like, you know, I would sign up for that class. I don't really give a shit about sailing, but I will take his class.
You would be signing up with Sailing with Jimbo.
Yeah,
You wouldn't have dropped out with the
I would have been there with Jimmy or whatever.
Yeah.
Jimbo.
Jimbo.
Yeah.
Yes, he's the only one who sticks around.
Yeah.
The one who says the only sex crime is not getting any. I'm like, oh, high school.
I love how everybody's just disrupting this
senior
assembly.
seminar.
There are police officers
With
here,
police
kids.
officers. No one gets in trouble.
and I love also his like he shows up to the school and I guess throughout the whole movie his detective outfit is like Mormon missionary,
The short
the
sleeves.
short sleeved white shirt.
Yeah.
I'm like, and he even has his badge on the pocket.
Just like Sipowicz.
Yes, Sipowicz. That must have been his inspiration. I love like when he goes like when he's like, look, supposedly they're like, oh, Susie's been missing, and then the kid takes him to like, oh, this is where all the kids go or whatever, and Kevin Bacon just walks right to the crime scene like immediately and finds the teeth immediately.
Yeah.
Like okay,
In the boat,
like
yeah.
looking back, you're like
There they are.
he knew exactly where he was going because he
Yeah.
was told where to go.
Yeah.
But he's still trying to play like, oh,
It's a
show me
beach.
where the
It's a
kids
huge-
go.
yeah.
This is just part of my investigation. And he's like, beat it, kid. There's
Catch
a bus up the road.
Catch the bus, Jimbo.
Poor Jimbo. I want him to be like, I don't have any money.
Like, right? I'm like, did you bring any cash? I don't know. You seem like another not rich kid from this school. But like that scene when like Neve Campbell is pulling out her teeth in the credit sequence, where she's like, "Oh, you're pulling too hard. You're gonna crush the fucking evidence." And she's like, "I'll do it."
Oh,
And then pulls out her own teeth. I'm like, that's commitment to $8.5 million. She's like, I'm getting $8.5 million. I can get dental implants after this.
Yeah.
Which I guess she got really fast
she
because
did,
her teeth
yeah.
looked like they were all fine.
Can you imagine in that final scene? She's just like missing teeth.
Or I would have loved that. I'm like, all I want for Christmas is my two front teeth.
Blacked out like teeth.
That would have added a level of
I
camp.
like how Susie, once she makes it to the Caribbean, I mean, she's gone shopping she's got some resort wear.
Yes.
She's kind of left her bad girl image behind.
She's gotten rid of the extra eyeliner.
She is now Suzanne.
She's Suzanne.
Oh my God.
Suzanne, she's got Theresa Russell's little robe over the bikini thing going by the end.
She has her cute little cover.
I mean, I want to say that it's not supposed to be a wig. That we're to believe that she's now altered
I think
her
it was,
appearance.
yeah, it's
She's
supposed to
gone
be that
girled
she's
herself.
blonde now
Yeah,
because she's
yeah.
changed her appearance.
Yeah.
But to anyone watching, I feel like if you don't know that's a wig,
Yeah.
I guess you've never seen a movie before.
It's just a very sensible mom cut.
Right? She gone girled herself.
The
She's
Dorothy Hamill
completely-
Bob,
yeah.
that's how she's disguising herself in the Caribbean.
But it's like she wouldn't even really need to disguise herself.
Nobody knows who she is there.
No one knows who she is.
Nobody
And
was reading the
her-
Blue Bay murder trial or rape trial
And her
like
only-
dailies from the newspaper.
And her only family, who's not even really her family, she gave him $1 million.
Which I guess, see, you get this sense that Daphne Rubin Vega is like, nice truck. Where did you get that truck?
Right, yeah.
You know, like something's going on here. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I think Susie's 3 steps ahead of you, Daphne. I'm sorry. Or whatever. What was her detective name? I forget her. I just
She's
remember the
not
actress's
Detective
name.
Vera Cruz. That's from
Jawbreaker.
Jawbreaker.
That's from
Gloria Perez.
Gloria Perez. Yes, you said it earlier. Like, Detective Perez smells something fishy here.
yeah.
And it's not the gators.
Yep. I loved her whole scene when she was off duty.
Yeah.
And her hair is down.
Yes, her off-duty look. I'm like, oh, see, I like her.
Yeah. Off duty Detective Perez. That's what the doll.
Yeah.
Her fashion doll.
Do we have any last reflections on Wild Things?
Oh my goodness! I'm glad I got around to it. I'm glad
Yeah,
I
I'm
watched
glad that we
it.
introduced
And
this
I'm
movie to
telling
you.
you, people, if you haven't seen it, sorry we spoiled it for you, but I was geeked, gooped, and gagged the entire time. Kept me on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Surprise constellation. You can add an intro at the beginning maybe and be
Yeah.
like,
Spoiler
watch
heavy.
the movie before you listen to the episode because
Yeah.
all the fun of the 5,000 twists
Yeah.
are going. Well, who knows how many we actually reveal? I guess we'll find out when I listen back to this.
Yeah. But
I mean, I feel like there's a good 4
reveals
in this story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get like
There's at least 4.
Yes, because I'm trying to think. So at first you think, let's try to break this down before we end. As our ending, let's try to break down the levels of the reveals. Because at first we think that it is a sexual assault case, and then we realize that it's a plot between. Only for a split second we realize that it's. First we get a glimpse and we think it's Denise Richards and Matt Dillon,
Then
and
we
then
get-
Neve Campbell
then we
comes
get
out
Neve.
of the bathroom. So then
Yeah.
we're like, oh, it's the 3 of them together. And then from there,
We get Susie's murder.
Susie's murder, and then you're like, oh, this was a plot. It was just a plot between
Yep.
Denise and Matt Dillon, and Neve Campbell just thought she was a part of it, and their plan was to get rid of her all along to keep the money between themselves. And then you realize that Ray Duquette is a part of it, and part of the plot was to also kill Kelly. No, it wasn't to kill Kelly because he was upset about that. But Ray Duquette was like Matt and Dillon, and Ray Duquette had a secret side plot, and Ray Duquette had his own plot to get rid of Kelly because he also didn't want to share money, I guess, is the reason for that. Or he wanted Matt Dillon all to himself, just like Kelly did. They cut that part out of the movie, so it didn't make as much sense.
Oh, my God.
And then you realize that, then you think that it's Susie and Matt Dillon. I'm just saying his real name. Susie and Sam. You think it's Susie and Sam, and it was just their plot altogether. And then she kills Sam, and then you think it was just Susie. And then the lawyer comes in, and you're like, oh, she and the lawyer worked together to cook up this whole thing. And that was,
I mean,
I think,
there's your
what it is.
There's your 90s Greek tragedy right there.
Oh my God, it is. This is
Yep.
90s Greek tragedy. This is why we love it so.
Well, listeners, it's available on Hulu.
One last question. You're at the gas station video wall. What are you renting with Wild Things?
Oh, what am I
Weekend.
renting with Wild Things?
Your parents are away. You can rent the Radar movie. What are you renting?
Oh my goodness, that is a good question. So this is 1998 at the video store. 99.
Yep.
I'm trying to think something else that's like forbidden. I grew up in a house where I was allowed to watch anything that I wanted, even as a child. Like I watched my mother is Mormon, but a horror movie fanatic. I don't know how those go together, but they do. So we were allowed to watch like Nightmare on Elm Street since I saw it when it came out.
Yeah.
I was like 5 years old. I'm trying to think. It would have been something that looked like it had sex in it. That's like, what was some other sexy movie that came out at the same time that was just like had a notorious sex scene? Because that I would have wanted just for the
Body of Evidence.
Actually, that is it. That would be the one. I think it would be Body because it's just
Sliver.
like another trashy porn noir type movie.
Yeah.
I think that I am renting The Faculty.
The Faculty
With Wild Things. That's
That
gonna
is a good
That's going to be
pairing.
my Friday night double feature.
I like that. I like that double. I would be there for that double feature. Absolutely.
Gosh, I don't know what I would
Maybe
probably
for your
rent
next
something
rooftop
old.
cinema.
Oh, I mean, hey, I'm here for it. I would probably rent something old. I feel not old like.
Or you know what I would do as
Gone
a
with the
film
Wind.
student, a film nerd. I would have rented Body Heat
Okay.
because it's like this.
Sure.
Because it's very much like you feel the heat.
You
of,
get your Florida Noir.
Yes, like keep it thematically connected. Also, you get to see before he was canceled. You get to see William Hurt's dick a little bit. It looked pretty good actually. Like, you've seen Body Heat, right?
I've actually never seen Body Heat.
You need it's gotten to a level of respect enough that it's on the Criterion streaming channel. Watch it. It actually if Kathleen Turner. This is like what made her like the star of the 80s. That would be a perfect pairing with Wild Things. Actually, I think it actually would because she's very much the predator of that movie.
God,
But
maybe I'd have just watched Armageddon or something.
Armageddon.
All right. I take it.
I'll rent.
Well,
that
Samir,
shit.
thank you so much for coming
Yes,
over.
This was a lot.
Thank
of,
you
this
for
was a lot
having
of
episode.
fun.
Thanks for
Yeah.
reaching out to us.
I'm so glad I did. It happened. It was literally happenstance because I started listening to your podcast maybe 6 months ago, and I was like, I had started because I'm really bad at promoting. I curate and host a film series called Queer Classics at the New Parkway Theater in Oakland, really close to the 19th Street BART station, just a few blocks walk from there. It's like one Sunday a month. They pick some movie that has some queer interest, something that queer people love or had famous queer people in it. And we started with more classic films, and now it's just like movies that we love from like the 80s and 90s, basically.
Awesome.
And somebody who came to one of the screenings, I had actually been mulling for a few weeks. I'm like, I should email them. I would love to be a part of this podcast. It is so fun. The list of movies that you've covered is literally like every single movie that is like a part of my gay heart is represented on that list of movies that you've done. Like the fact that I found more other gay men who loved Overboard enough to do a podcast episode about it. I was like, these are my people. I need to talk to them. And I'm also like, I'm confident enough in myself in a lot of ways, but also I'm like that. You have to break through the shell kind of person.
Sure.
And so I was like, I don't know if they would be interested. What are they? They don't know me. They don't care. Nobody cares what I think, But then I was like, I should still email them. And then after my screening of, was it Paris is Burning? I think it was. I screened Paris is Burning for Pride Month on International Pride Day. It was the anniversary of Stonewall. And one of someone I guess you guys met through the podcast, through being a fan of the podcast, was like, do you ever listen to the podcast Movies That Made Me Gay? You should like talk to them. Like, I think you would love it. And I'm like, I've been listening to it. I've been thinking about writing to them. And she's like, well, you should. And so then I did. And you guys were like super like, oh yeah, what do you want to cover? Give us a list. And I'm like, a list of things that you haven't done yet. That was hard. But then I realized, I'm like, there really are still so many more movies.
Oh yeah.
Like you could keep this going for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I was like, because we didn't like. What were we thinking originally? Like I proposed All About Eve, and I was like, which I love, and I could quote the entire movie. But then I also said, "Gentlemen Prefer Blondes," and then I remember I did throw this in there somewhere, and I'm glad I did because I do not get to have conversations like this about this movie with anybody else. So this was a pure delight for me.
It was fun.
Awesome. Why don't you give us some information on where people can find your screenings, and is there one coming up?
Yes, there is another one coming up. So if you follow me on Insta, I set up it took me a full year. A year ago, I started that series on my birthday in July, and I started with Auntie Maine. And, of course, then on the year anniversary, I did Death Becomes Her. So it's like live, 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 live forever. It just worked. And finally, on this year anniversary, I'm like, I should start an Instagram account for the series to promote it. It took me a full year to do it, but it's at The Queer Classics on Instagram. I don't use Twitter as much, but it's at Queer Classic, singular. Sequin. So I would recommend the Instagram. I'm trying to post on that more because it's just more natural to me.
Same.
I post stories on Instagram more than I post pictures.
Same.
But I'll always have a post about what the next screening is. So the next one we're showing is Batman and Robin, which I know you guys did an amazing episode on.
Episode 50.
It was number 50.
Yeah, that was one of the milestone episodes.
Oh, yeah, I love that movie. And I even said that the last screening, I was telling everyone, I'm like, if you don't know why that movie is queer, well, come to the screening and find out. And that'll be August 13th at the New Parkway Theater. It's on 24th Street in Oakland, right around the corner from the Stork Club, which I think John Waters is part owner of or somehow involved with now. He spends a lot of time in the Bay Area because he also hosts the Mosswood Meltdown punk music festival every first weekend of July. And now he's involved with this bar that my friend hosts a drag show at. So he got to judge the Little Miss Mosswood pageant. My friend dressed up like Debbie Harry from Hairspray. And John Waters even said, "You look just like her." This is amazing. And I'm like, wow. "Oh, you've lived your dream, B." My friend, I call her B. But so the New Parkway Theater in Oakland on 24th Street is where they're at. August 13th is the next one, 3 p.m. It's going to be Batman and Robin. It's going to be a single Sunday a month. After this one, I have to plan the rest of the year still and curate what's going to come up. But I've got some amazing things in mind and lined up. Halloween month is coming. I have to pick a good queer horror movie. I'm always trying to do The Devils, but you cannot find a print of that movie or even a DVD copy of it in the States to show. Okay. It's that one. Oh, we'll talk about that. But yes, for the most information, easily findable at The Queer Classics on Instagram. And then you'll get all the info you need. There's only 4 posts on it, but check the stories.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much.
We'll have you on again.
Oh, I'd love it.
All righty.
Yes.
Well, we'll see you next time.
Bye,
everybody.
Bye.
And thanks so much, everyone, for listening to our Wild Things episode.
Yeah.
Love that movie. Go watch it on Hulu if you haven't already. It's still a fucking wild ride.
Well, Pete.
Yes.
It's that time of the show. For Patreon shout-outs. Let's hear them.
Alrighty. Well, let's say hello and thank you to all of our wonderful patrons, including Kelly, Chrissy, Stephen, Jake, Desiree, Adam, Chris, Laura, Thomas, Brenna, Jessa Rabbit, Lawrence, Lisa, Alexis, Thomas, Mark, Jackson, Millie, Ted, Benny, Jermel, Melanie, Susan, JJ, Muffy, Jamie, DS, Genevieve, Dawn, Joshua, Emily, Aaron, Jessica, John, Nick and Shannon, Christine, and also Rufino. You guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. As you know, we're smack in the middle of our, we're winding down.
We're winding down on it.
RuPaul's Drag Race Season 8.
I think all the Patreon episodes should be out by the time this comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We're recording this a little ahead of time. So, yeah, Scott's absolutely right. We might be done with All Stars Season 8.
But we're going to have plenty of more fun stuff on the Patreon. We're going to start doing more television episodes on it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be doing more TV reviews on there. Those are going to be out for the patrons, $5 and up. Those are, hopefully we can still get them out once a week as we're doing with Drag Race. But now there's a ton. There's an entire season of Drag Race recaps. There are over 30 watch with us commentary tracks where we give you instructions on how to sync them up to the movie so that you can watch your movie in the presence and or in the comfort of your own home. And you can listen to Scott and I give our wonderful commentary. It's like you're watching the movie with us. And there's over 30 of those backlogged on there, and we're adding new ones all the time. So head over to patreon.com/movies that made us gay for more information on how to do that.
You can give us a follow on Movies That Made Us Gay on Facebook and Instagram, or follow us on MTMUG Pod on Twitter, and also we have a account on, what is it called, Pete?
Threads. We're on Threads.
Follow us on Threads.
Yeah, so if you're following us on Instagram, you're more than likely already following us on Threads if you have one, because I hit the thing that imports everybody over. So check us out on Threads. We're at Movies That Made Us Gay there as well. Mm-hmm. So follow all of our socials. If you want to follow our personal ones, feel free. I'm at Peter Lasagna on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm on Threads as well.
I'm Scott Youngballer on Instagram, and follow my letterbox.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And if you want to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, please do that. And if you are on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, there is a star rating system. Smash 5 stars, and that really helps us out as well. So, yeah, do all that fun stuff for us. And, yeah, we love you, fans. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll be back next week.
Bye.
Bye.